Hi, so this is my video for week 2, and for this week, I'll be answering two questions. The first one concerning advertising ethics, and it's about how might similar ethical patterns like moral muteness emerge in non-advertising areas such as HR or performance management. So I think moral muteness can happen in any kind of situation as long as the culture kind of promotes that. So in HR specifically, an example I can think of is maybe when it comes to hiring, if someone, points out a pattern of bias or any kind of like unfairness when it comes to, maybe hiring or recruitment, um, that could be a sign of moral muteness if, the organization kind of downplays that and doesn't really, truly investigate that with a level of seriousness. It could just be played down as like, just a bit of an understanding or just not being taken as seriously in general. Um, and, if there's already kind of like a culture that they don't want to threaten by kind of calling out this moral muteness, then it's more likely that those things like go under the radar. And it doesn't necessarily come from malice or like, people are trying to be unfair or like have biases. It could come from fear of change. And speaking up might not really feel like an option if employees don't have a sense of like psychological safety within their organization. So that's the first question. And then moving on to the TED Ed video, the question is, when making tough choices, do consequences, intentions, or duties weigh most heavily on you? So I think intention is the most important thing, but that doesn't always mean that, the consequence and the duties should go unnoticed or like all three of those things should be seen together. But I do think intention is extremely important. And an example of, maybe having good intentions and not, um, the consequences of that not being okay, or like maybe you delay giving feedback to a coworker because you don't want to hurt their feelings. So the intention is good. I want to preserve this person's feelings and I don't want to give them feedback that might hurt their feelings. But the consequence of that is that, you're not really addressing the problem and that can create a conflict later down the line. So, it's important to kind of have a sense of your own intentions, but also understand the consequences of not acting in a way that is, fair, or considering the moral, like obligations that you have as well. So, thank you.